Hey everyone, it's Tafony here once again, and today's rambling about is going to be on the Moog Grandmother, a semi-modular analog synthesizer, an East Coast monosynth, a legend, dare I say it, for only being 6 years old at the time of this video. It feels legendary to me, at least. It's such a pleasure to have in the studio at the moment. Here's the disclaimer, though. I am borrowing this from my friend locally here in Vancouver. I'm not affiliated with Moog or In Music, who didn't actually own them at the time that this grandmother was manufactured. This series isn't sponsored or anything. This isn't journalism. This is just a vlog. It's my own thoughts, my own ramblings, my own opinions, and with all of that out of the way, the grandmother sounds like this. Okay, so before I jump into this one, I wanted to sort of like give a quick lowdown on Moog or Moog. I used to say Moog, now I believe it's Moog. I believe it's Bob Moog. I believe that I'm not the first person to be confused by either, so if that's the wrong pronunciation, you lambast me in the comments. Okay, so before I jump into this one, I want to give like a quick overview of Moog and my relationship with them, and maybe I don't need to tell you who they are. If you're here, you probably are all too familiar, but I'm going to do it anyway. So it's hard to think of a more legendary brand and person in the world of synthesizers than Moog and Bob Moog. And to be honest, I'm not above simping for somebody in the field. I was very fortunate to visit the Moog factory for a studio tour in a very brief period between the shutdowns from that thing that you can't talk about on YouTube and the In Music takeover and subsequent shutdown of the Asheville factory. I want to point something out really quick on this one before we get into half an hour of swooning over Moog and the brand, that at the time leading up to the In Music takeover of Moog, there was a unionization by the employees. They joined the IBEW 238 Electrical Workers Union, and if you're interested in the story of that, I think you should check out the Moog Employees Music Union. I'll put a link in the description, but I think that's just sort of a piece of a very interesting history that when you talk about Moog, you always talk about, you know, like Switched on Bach and the Theremin and Bob, and I think there was a nearly 20-year period between when Bob sold the company and when the grandmother came out, well, while the grandmother came out, and then subsequently sold to In Music, which, does this mean now that we're going to get a Moog branded Model D plugin for the Akai MPCs? Because they have a Model D clone, which now they find themselves owning Moog. But yeah, I'll link to that Instagram in the description. But I just want to say, like, while it's not all roses, not just the era of the grandmother, and maybe it's just snake oil, and maybe I'm totally biased because I was there, and Moog is sort of the first brand that a lot of us get introduced to when we're learning about synthesizers, but I don't know. I feel like there's just some magic, and maybe it's stupid and maybe it's biased, but like there's just something to, especially the grandmother. I think it's something special, and I don't know what it is, and I mean this both in like the sound and the build and the like. Everything about it is just like, this is what synthesizers are for. And I'm trying to be like critical, I guess. Again, it's not journalism, but like I try and like, it's easy to come on here and just talk about what you love about the shiny things, because that's what we're all in it here for. This is probably why you're watching the video, but like there's some magic here, I think. That I don't know if it's because just how on point the sounds are, or if it's because the overdriven mixer adds some like West Coasty wave folding to like what is otherwise the most East Coast company, or what. But like, I don't know. Grandmother is just, it's on point. I love it. Maybe this is all just my delusion, and I'm talking about this thing like it's a freaking art piece when, I mean, it feels like it. But yeah. Anyway, with all of that swooning being said, here's some ugly guy at the Asheville, North Carolina factory in 2023. And here is Bob Moog's autographed theremin at the Spark Museum of Electricity in Bellingham, Washington. Yeah, I absolutely love this instrument. It was one of the first keyboard synths I had briefly when I first got into doing synthesizers, and I'll do a video eventually on like how I got into everything, because you all probably have a similar story. But I absolutely love it. It was long before I had Eurorack or any other modular or anything, and I sold it. Like, I sell everything, and I regret it dearly, but thankfully I'm getting to borrow this one today. I've never tried the Matriarch, the polyphonic or the 4-voice version, the 4-oscillator, the big kahuna version of this one. So I don't have any comparisons to make on that front, but I just, this is a vlog. Moog Grandmother. Just rapid fire round of everything that's on board. We have 2 oscillators. We have a low frequency oscillator in the modulation section. There's a mixer. There is a utility section. There is a 4-pole Moog classic filter. This is what we're here for. Envelope generator. There's an envelope generator here. There is an output section with 3 different modes, which is really unique and really appreciated. And spring reverb. It's real spring. I think in a lot of marketing stuff and a lot of stuff I've seen online, people love the fact that it's a real spring reverb as opposed to digital. And I think real spring reverb, as far as I understand, is like a pretty cheap way to do things as opposed to it. But they are completely right in saying, or in appreciating it, because it sounds so good. I'm a big enjoyer of reverbs over delays, maybe because I'm a simpleton, maybe because it's easy to crank. Well, I guess that falls into the first category too, but it sounds amazing. It just anyway, we'll get into how it sounds in a minute, but yeah, the spring reverb, absolutely awesome. 32 key keyboard. These keys are big. These are full-sized. They are velocity sensitive, but not after touch. They feel great. This is, if you're in a live band, and I think possibly what introduced me to the Grandmother originally was a local band in Vancouver named Mittens. I will link to them in the description. But I think if this is your bass synth, the playability of this thing, it's a little large, but what better mono synth? I mean, maybe there's some issues with tuning it in pitch to guitar. Maybe I've never played along to a rock band like that before, but yeah, it's hard to think of a better monosynth to bring on stage than this one, because yeah, it's so rad. Sorry. Let's keep going through. There's these Lego looking plastic pitch and mod wheels. They feel nice. They are everything on here is very plastic, but very nice. And I mean, like the whole body. There's no wood, like the what's the one, the sub 25 or the sub 37, but you know, plastic ends and a little bit of metal here on board, but yeah, everything's kind of plasticky in a way that feels really good, and I don't know if any of that matters, but you know, if you're wondering, it's there. And same for, like, this is all just a big decal, like the black version, quote unquote, of this synthesizer. I believe the only difference is the decals on here are printed differently, and these buttons are red instead of multicolored. Take your pick on what you think of the black versus colored version. This isn't mine. I don't know which I would pick. I don't know how they can charge more for the black version than the colored version, but that's to each their own. Last thing I didn't mention yet is the arpeggiator / sequencer. Great arpeggiator on here. I really enjoy the simplicity of it. It just makes like, you know, okay. You know, there's that meme that's like learning music theory versus turning on the arpeggiator and doing hitting notes. Well, this thing is great for not learning music theory and just turn on the arpeggiator and hit notes. But there's also a sequencer mode on board, which I used very briefly, and I thought it was really good, but let's find out if we actually like it. So, yeah, I'm not the most knowledgeable when it comes to subtractive synthesis. I'm going to try my damnedest to do it today, and if I screw it up, if I miss something that you think is essential, if I am not making sounds that you want, you let me know in the comments. But without further ado, let's hear it. So hear this thing, and I'm gonna try and make an init patch from what I think of as an init patch. So important thing with the mixer right off the bat is that they overdrive, so we're gonna put these up to noon and turn off the noise just for simplicity. Being semi-modular, a lot of this stuff is internally patched, like the pulse width amount is patched to the pulse width of the square waveforms. The pitch amount of the LFO is patched to the frequency of the oscillators, and so on, but we're going to get into it right away. So right now I'm going to put my first oscillator into a triangle wave and hit it. So these are all cranked up super high, so let's mix some of it in and me out. Check, check, check. So yeah, triangle wave, my filter's all the way open. I don't believe this high pass filter, and we'll get into that in a bit, I don't believe this is patched internally. No. So yeah, envelope, we're just gonna give it a little more. And that is about as basic of a patch as we can get. So I'm going to stick to the black keys today because music theory. And let's just turn this up a hair, bring it in a little more. Check, check, check. Sorry, it's going to be difficult to get a mix of myself and the thing here, so, and the thing being the grandmother. So let's first go over the sequencer before we do any complex patching, so we can actually have a little bit of stuff to chew on in our patch. So I have it holding and playing in arpeggiator mode, and then there's how many octaves you want. So one, if I only hit one note in one octave mode, it's just going to repeat. But if I did a chord, like let's do a C major, do 2 octaves, and it'll run through 2. And I'm in random mode right now, but you can have it go up and down, back and forth, it says, or in order, just only up. But what I like to do is put it in random mode, put it in 3 octaves worth, and we'll take this down an octave on the oscillator side, and we're just going to hit some black keys. And I think that will bring in some niceness. Scientific terms again. Niceness. Niceness. Okay. That's kind of bassy, so let's try and do a different waveform. Let's try the saw. Sounds great. square, and the secondary square. I really like that saw. But then you can overdrive this, so let's overdrive it. Yeah, like on the saw it's a little crazy, but if we get in the triangle wave, that's just, to use a scientific term, that. Oh, it sounds so good. Okay, but let's stack that with the second oscillator, so bring that guy in. So I'll bring in some noise too. That sounds really nice, I think. Yeah. So no noise. Lots of noise. That's not too much. But then let's bring in... Let's go down octaves. And I don't know, this thing just sounds really nice on the low end. Let's go down an octave, so... Getting some square waves. So then we can do pulse width modulation on this one by use of the mod knob. So now this rate is in. So how much modulation do you want? So we have it cranked. If we turn it off again, pulse width modulation, well, all of our modulation is stopped, but when we crank it up all the way, so we'll get our rate going. Now, let's get into some semi-modular stuff. So, this is one of my, sorry for a random aside, but one of my issues in Eurorack is always like, I always want my LFOs clocked, and for some reason Eurorack doesn't like to clock its LFOs. I don't really get it. Why would I not want to clock my LFOs? I don't know, but let's clock them. So how much frequency modulation do we want? I don't know if I'm going to do... I'm not a big FM guy for me, but it's there. If we use less. If we unclock it. I think that's a more clockless use of... Yeah. You could just do a hair of FM. I'm not a big FM guy, so we'll just leave that. But yeah, cutoff you can modulate as well. And we gotta start with the filter. So I'm getting ahead of ourselves, but I find, and you've probably seen this in many videos if you're going through them all here, you gotta be careful with the resonance here, because if you start cranking it, you really lose a lot of low end, which is kind of what I'm here for on the Moog. But there's an amount of keyboard tracking. Let's start with none. And we'll bring our cutoff down. And you hear that modulation is cranked, so we'll just bring that all the way off, and we're going to skip ahead to the filter. So let's do some filter sweeping. No envelope generator going to the cutoff, so let's just sweep. All out of order. But you know what? That's what rambling about is, just rambling about. We're just going off the cuff. We're just going however we want, because it's fun. I'm not trying to be the Bob Ross of YouTube synth videos. I'd rather be the Bob Moog, I guess. That's the cutoff. Crank up some resonance. We'll apply our envelope to that one. That just, yeah. This is what we're here for, you know? We'll use a little bit less keyboard tracking, so less resonance too. But yeah, and then we'll modulate the cutoff from now. And if you're doing long drones, like I'll open my envelope up. There is lots of droning to be had here, let me tell you. if that's your thing. Yeah, where were we? Having too much fun. So let's get all our modulation out of that, other than the pulse width modulation, which I need to demonstrate. So let's bring that filter down a bit. And then modulation's all the way up, pulse width amount. Let's bring in some of that. Just stack 2 square waves. Try and get them in tune. Sync them so that their waveform is synced. It is not pitch sync, I believe, because you can still tune this up, right? Yeah. Science. You don't need me to be the manual for you because you have access to the manual. I'm just trying to be entertaining. So, if I have screwed up your favorite subtractive synthesis, or I've misdefined something really important, I'm so sorry, and I will do it again. Let's open the filter back up. But what I like to do the most here, so there's also other waveforms in the modulation. There's lots. If we do square, if I do square, pulse width, PWM. I don't know if that's okay. There's reverse shark tooth. That's shark tooth, which is the reverse of sawtooth. We know lots about subtractive synthesis. This is the shark tooth, and then the sine wave, which is what you're probably going to want. Let's try and do what is a classic and take the waveform out of that and use it at audio rate. And if we patch in our keyboard out, I believe this is volt per octave, I hope. Yeah, okay. So for me, if you're big on modulation, it's there, it's awesome, it's, you know, important. There is a mult on board, and that's sweet, if you want to use this for more than one thing, but I like to use this LFO for a third oscillator, so let's get these in tune. Yeah, it's really loud, the LFO, so bring in just a hair of it to give it some harmonics. See a sine wave too. And then we'll do some arpeggio stuff. Yeah, I don't need to introduce to you what the envelope generator is. I don't think this one is super interesting, other than it the sustain knob is on a slider, which to me is really performative, and I would want it for decay, but I think it's probably a nice teaching tool to, if you're new to synthesis, you understand that the sustain level is controlled by a level on a sort of like ruler, right? For me, I'd probably prefer the decay be performative, or I don't know, the reverb even. I just, this is the nitpicking that Eurorack people do, right? But yeah, it's there and it's cool. And let's bring in our stuff again. That envelope can get extremely snappy. Let's bring in some decay. Release. Sustain just a little off of full. It's got a nice curve to the attack. I like it. And then I'm not going to go through the utilities. There's a mult. That's really nice. There's a high pass filter with no control over resonance, which is very useful. Attenuator, very useful for modulation stuff. This video's already way too long. So let's get into the reverb. And I love this stupid thing. It sounds so good. I don't know if it's just like a metalliciness to the tone, not to the spring itself, but like... If you're into droning, eat your heart out, because this thing drones. Doing some glide for fun. Bring it right up. I'm going to go back to noise and try and do a little bit of a different patch, so... You gotta be careful with the resonance, and I haven't been careful in this video, so... Sync it. Bring in some noise. A little noise is nice. You gotta be careful though. Let's just hear the noise on its own, because I haven't shown that yet. Bring in the other stuff. Overdrive it. I like doing a little octave up action. Drown it in reverb. Yeah, I really like that. Okay, let's go into sequencer mode, and I think if I hit play, it'll play the saved sequences, so we'll hit play. This is something I recorded last time. Turn down the reverb. So I'm holding it right now. If I take out hold, go to ARP mode, ARP's playing, go to sequencer mode, and I hit play. Okay, so yeah, it'll play it in the key that I'm in, so you can transpose it that way. That's interesting. So okay, let's record something though. So if we go into record, and we'll hit. Let me see. I think you hit record and it flashes. And then we hit play. Do something real simple. Let's take that reverb off. So we'll go to record. We'll go over to 1. We'll go. So then we hit play. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, sorry, I'm not in the right direction, so I go order. Yeah, then I put a tie in there by hitting that too. So yeah, I mean, it's there. It's not my thing. I'd like, for me, I think the performing this is important, and the modularness is important. And if I was going to use a sequencer, I'd probably use another one. But it is super long. I think it has like up to 100. Don't quote me on that. Look at the manual. It has like up to 100 steps of sequencing, so that's crazy. Yeah. Love that, but I love the arpeggiator more, and I love the reverb. And I can play this all day. Let's do some different waveforms. Yeah, let's go super long and super slow, and then let's try some of that. We'll hold it. We're going to play a C minor chord. Yeah, Moog Grandmother, it's a special instrument. I can't say enough good things about it. If you're looking for a mono synth, an analog one, there's more compact things, there's more affordable things, but I think Grandmother is really special. I'm Tafony. This one's for you, Margaret. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you soon.